G'day guys and welcome back. In the Flat Earth community, there is only one person who is seen to be in higher standing than Jesus himself. He's basically the Beatles of the community. I speak of course of Eric Dubay. Over the years, he has amassed quite the following. Some years ago, he published a video showcasing his 200 proofs that the Earth isn't a spinning globe. In this series, I'm going to show how 200 of the 200 are wrong, and how many of them are the same argument, just worded differently. Don't worry, I'm not going to do them all at once. Here are the first 10 proofs that the Earth is flat, utterly destroyed. Enjoy!
"200 Proofs Earth is Not a Spinning Ball" by Eric Dubay. 1. The horizon always appears perfectly flat 360 degrees around the observer regardless of altitude. All amateur balloon, rocket, plane, and drone footage show a completely flat horizon over 20 plus miles high. Only NASA and other government space agencies show curvature in their fake CGI photos and videos.
The horizon appears flat because you are really small, and the Earth is really big. This first image shows how both would look from 32 kilometers up. That's the 20 miles you mentioned. The red rectangle here shows the maximum resolution viewing. That is the maximum resolution of the human eye, for those playing along at home. Anything outside of this area is a lower resolution, and our brains simply fill in a lot of it from visual memory. Bear in mind, this is from 32 kilometers above the Earth's surface, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is 3 times the height of a typical passenger plane cruising altitude. This is what it looks like from a normal human height. The Earth is simply too large to notice any curvature from such a small height.
2. The horizon always rises to the eye level of the observer as altitude is gained, so you never have to look down to see it. If Earth were in fact a globe, no matter how large, as you ascended, the horizon would stay fixed and the observer would have to tilt looking down further and further to see it.
Here you can see that the horizon is not at eye level, and the higher we go, the higher the eye level goes too. Funny about that. The horizon doesn't always raise to eye level. It only appears that way as most of the time when looking at the horizon, you're generally looking at it over the ocean, and there is nothing to use as a frame of reference. This is what we, in the educated world, call an optical illusion. Even on the flat Earth, you can reach a height where the horizon drops below eye level, simply due to the assumed size of the disk.
3. The natural physics of water is to find and maintain its level. If Earth were a giant sphere tilted, wobbling, and hurtling through infinite space, then truly flat, consistently level surfaces would not exist here. But since Earth is in fact an extended flat plane, this fundamental physical property of fluids finding and remaining level is consistent with experience and common sense.
If you didn't understand that word salad, what Eric is saying here is that water should always be level, and if the Earth was a ball, it would flow off of it. The problem with flat earthers is that they don't understand gravity and how the mass of the Earth and atmospheric pressures cause the water to behave how they do. Flat earthers will often show videos of themselves pouring water over a ball and having it flow off, not understanding that the reason the water flows off is due to the mass of the Earth causing that thing that Newton is famous for to pull the water down.
4. Rivers run down to sea level, finding the easiest course, north, south, east, west, and all other intermediary directions over the Earth at the same time. If Earth were truly a spinning ball, then many of these rivers would be impossibly flowing uphill. For example, the Mississippi, in its 3,000 miles, would have to ascend 11 miles before reaching the Gulf of Mexico.
Again, here Eric is not understanding gravity, and is displaying another ignorance that flat earthers have. They seem to think that the curvature is caused by a series of bulges rather than one smooth action over the entire surface. And indeed, the surface of the Earth is smooth, even compared to a billiard ball. If we were to scale the Earth down, or even better, scale a billiard ball up to the equal size of the Earth, then the billiard ball would have mountains and trenches far beyond anything that Earth has. I know that's off topic, but it's just so damn interesting.
5. One portion of the Nile River flows for 1,000 miles with a fall of only 1 foot. Parts of the West African Congo, according to the supposed inclination and movement of the ball earth, would be sometimes running uphill and sometimes down. This would also be the case for the Parana, Paraguay, and other long rivers.
This is exactly the same argument as the previous one.
6. If Earth were a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, as NASA and modern astronomy claim, spherical trigonometry dictates the surface of all standing water must curve downward an easily measurable 8 inches per mile, multiplied by the square of the distance. This means along a 6-mile channel of standing water, the Earth would dip 6 feet on either end from the central peak. Every time such experiments have been conducted, however, standing water has proven to be perfectly level.
I once again direct you to Walter Bisson's blog, which I'll be using quite a lot over this series. He goes over this in way more detail than I can put into a video, as it lets you plug in your own numbers and it's mostly maths. Basically, the whole inches per mile, which is more commonly known as the Bedford level experiment, has been utterly debunked, and has been since the 1870s.
7. Surveyors, engineers, and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects. Canals, railways, bridges, and tunnels, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles without any allowance for curvature.
Oh, this one is too easy. Surveyors never operate over such large distances all at once. Railways aren't laid in 100-kilometre stretches. If they were, we could have built a space elevator by now, and that simply isn't the case. There are many bridges that have to take the curvature into account, and without getting into structural engineering too much, it basically means that the top of the pillar is usually slightly wider than the base to compensate for the curve. Nothing that is really noticeable to the everyday person.
8. The Suez Canal, connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea, is 100 miles long without any locks, making the water an uninterrupted continuation of the two seas. When constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line, 26 feet below sea level, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with the datum line and the water's surface running perfectly parallel over the 100 miles.
Again, this is the same argument as the last one. It wasn't all constructed at once, it was done in sections, and by using sea level as a reference point, the curvature is taken into account by default.
9. Engineer W. Winkler was published in the Earth Review regarding the Earth's supposed curvature, stating, "As an engineer of many years' standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I have projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal and increasing at the ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have, by the above rule, an allowance for curvature of 600 feet. Think of that, and then please credit engineers as not being quite such fools. Nothing of the sort is allowed. We no more think of allowing 600 feet for a line of 30 miles of railway or canal than of wasting our time trying to square the circle."
Again, with using a quote from over 100 years ago, not to mention that the publication Eric mentions never even existed, nor does any record of a W. Winkler, engineer. Anecdotal evidence at best, a Flathead Deception at worst.
10. The London and North Western Railway forms a straight line 180 miles long between London and Liverpool. The railroad's highest point midway at Birmingham Station is only 240 feet above sea level. If the world were actually a globe, however, curving 8 inches per mile squared, the 180-mile stretch of rail would form an arc, with the center point at Birmingham raised over a mile, a full 5,400 feet above London and Liverpool.
This is the same argument as the river one, as well as number 4 entry about a curve being a series of hills. Well, there you have it, folks. We'll leave it at 10 for now, and we'll do another 10 really soon. Don't worry, I'm not going to make this a weekly thing, but there are 200 proofs for us to get through. Next video, we'll be looking at a completely different conspiracy, and one that I find utterly hilarious, and I guarantee you will too, so be sure to tune in for that. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, a special thanks to the $25 plus patrons, Purple Haze and Pyramid Head. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and until next time, friends, don't be a dick.